Papaya, Ken, how you doing? Welcome to Transform Your Future podcast. I'm so happy that you had a few minutes to come and join me. I want to talk about your executive coaching and your leadership practices. I'm really interested in kind of rounding it up. Why don't we just start out by you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you got involved in doing what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Eddie. I appreciate the time as well. Yeah, I got into this. It was a conversation over dinner when I was talking about leaving corporate America. I worked in financial services for 20 years, from entry level, creating a book of business all the way up to executive leadership. And I just kind of had enough of that. And I think anyone who's worked in corporate America knows what I mean when I say that, toxic relationships and all that can go with that. And so I was just having dinner one night with my husband, and he said, "Hey, what do you want to do next?" I said, "I'm not sure. I don't know that I want to stay in the industry." And he said, "Well, what do you love about all the roles you've ever had? What do you love to do?" And I said, "I like the people development part, like the whole element of helping somebody figure out what they're naturally good at and just honing in on that and developing that piece. That's pretty awesome." He says, "Well, there are businesses that do that. You could just do that." And that was the beginning of me sketching out an executive coaching practice that it took me 3, 4, maybe a little bit more, but about 6 months to really sketch it out and get it launched. And that was 6 years ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I
So,
mean it's a
yeah, I
big
just
difference in
decided that
life when you're doing things that you like to do as
for
opposed
sure.
to being forced to doing things that are annoying.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah, doing things somebody else's way that is maybe even less effective. If they just tell me what they want done, I could do it.
Yes.
So
Well, middle
yeah,
management's job is just create more busy work.
that's what that's what I hear. So yeah, I decided I was going to focus on small business owners. I loved the idea that there were lots of people out there starting businesses, just using their own grit, getting things going, and understanding that there's a certain point where they need organize and execute around priorities, right? They don't ever have to
Hmm.
be corporate process driven, but if they come up with processes to run money, people, and time, like organize those aspects that are challenges for every single business owner, they get a lot more what they want out of their business. The whole reason they start a business in the first place.
Right. 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 So let's dive in a little bit
Okay.
and talk about is there in small business, is there any particular small business aspects that you focus on more than others, or it's just all small businesses?
It's where I have found some focus, even though I was pretty agnostic when I first started, just based on my own network of
Hmm.
business owner friends I didn't even know I had until they became my key clients. But where I've really honed in is the medical professions and the trades. So, the professions, accountants, lawyers, doctors, and the trades, plumber, electrician, uh, HVAC, because what they have in common across the board is every one of those owners is likely doing the thing. They are the physician, they are the attorney, they are the plumber. So
Yes,
they're
yes.
working
They have the
in
founder, the
business. Yep.
founder syndrome. Yeah.
Founders. Yeah, they're actually one of the workers, and they're really good at it. They have a lot of hard work ethic. That's why they're successful. And then there's the whole running of the business, right? There's the practice of medicine, and then there's the medical practice, and they're really different aspects of the same thing. And that's where I've been able to help these owners, these founders, really get a lot of traction around how to run the business part, because they already know their trade or their profession.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. So more professional type of individuals that often get caught in that founder led trap where they have to do everything. They got to be involved in everything. And if they don't come to work anymore, then nothing else happens.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah. It's
so,
like you sat in on my calls.
so when you're working with these guys, I know that, you like to focus on those three things you mentioned: time, money, and people.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about how you help them in those areas and what kind of resources you offer them.
Yeah. So one place, Eddie, that I start with, and the reason I wrote an ebook about it is because I think there's kind of 6 mistakes. My old profession, financial services, I was a certified financial planner. I still am. So I still think that way. Even though I'm coaching in business and have new certifications to back that up. I still organize the same way in my mind so that we can get to what is the plan, right? So I know there's 6 mistakes that business owners tend to make. They don't make them all, but they make some of them. But they start with, they don't have an end in mind. They don't know what they want to do with that business, because a founder who intends to sell it, we have a different kind of plan for creating very specific kinds of value that make it valuable to someone else. So that's number one. Second mistake people make, they don't have a strategy about the business, a tactical strategy for doing business. It might be up here in their head, but they haven't written it down, and it's not a guiding document for all to follow. For sure, hiring. Hiring is like the third mistake people make. There's not a process behind it. So the way a lot of founders in particular do it in the early days, and then it continues, is, gosh, Sarah gave notice, I have to hire somebody. And it feels like they're always starting from scratch because so that's mistake 3. Mistake 4 is a good marketing strategy. Every business has to market. Even though one of the common things I hear is, oh, I get tons of referrals, I don't need to market. And anyone in business who's been in business long enough knows that the thing that may have worked, especially initially, may not always work. So we always have to have a blend of things going on to help us drive that top line. A third is the sales strategy, professional sales, right? How do we connect with a potential client and guide them for what is their issue, what do we offer, and how those things connect sales. And then last, and it's really not the least, but I put it last anyway, is time. It is the most common push, complaint, however you want to frame it, that people bring up is, I just don't have enough time. And what I would challenge them with is, it's not time they lack, it's focus, because it's the great equalizer. We all have the exact same 168 hours a week. It's just how we use it. And in that moment, I'll always say, hey, just think of somebody that's a lot busier than you, that runs a busier company, that has kids or more kids, something, all the things that you think would make it even harder to do what you do, but they're doing it. And that means they're managing time. So time is often where I start, even though it's the last thing on the list. We start there so that we can get a handle on how we're using the most precious element of our day every day. The thing that expires on us is irreplaceable. So that's where we always start.
So when you say the 6 biggest mistakes, right? What kind of mistakes are people making with time?
What they're making with time is they're majoring in the minors. For one thing, they've got their hands in every little thing, every little piece of operation. You said it first, Ed. They think that, right? They have to do it all, or it's not going to get done correctly. And that's just not true. Yeah.
Or they feel like they have to learn everything.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told you, I sell all the time, and I run a sales team, and we do marketing and advertising and a bunch of other things, but mostly marketing and advertising. And it's just amazing how many times I talk to owners of the business, and they want to go figure this out and learn how to do this and, rewrite this and play with this and sit down with somebody. And I'm like, why do you do that? I don't understand. Like, do you have a lot of time? Like, you had nothing to do or something? Like, for me, I much rather pay somebody to do something for me so I don't have to do it. I don't want to learn how to do everything. I like to stick in my lane, which is what I'm really good at, and let me just do that.
Yeah. And to your point, that's I have, one of the coaching outlines that I use is the 6 keys to great leadership, those 6 skills that we're always working on to be really effective leaders. And that is, it's communicate, delegate, motivate, recruit, collaborate, develop. We need to be able to do all 6 things. And what you're speaking to is the delegate part. Founders struggle, at least initially, to delegate well. Let go. And I mean, the skill of delegation, not assignment, right? I asked Bill to do it, but he didn't. Well, delegation is about making sure they have the resources and the ability and the training and the checkpoints. That said, once you finally get something off your plate that maybe we were doing well, but shouldn't be doing anymore, it frees up our time to do bigger and other things, to make other decisions we need to make as the owners.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. So tell me a little bit more about your book, your ebook.
Yeah, I go through the ebook. It's a place to give a couple of tips, tricks, truths to help people understand this is the mistake, but this is some of the elements of why you would want to be really intentional about, for example, creating an exit strategy. You create an exit strategy so that you make good decisions, understanding what you intend to do with the business. I use the example of selling a business. A more common one in small to medium-sized businesses is they want to be in the family. Well, then we're going to need to identify who else in the family is both interested and has the ability, and then make sure that we have a development plan so that we, so that those, the daughter is ready to assume the helm once mom steps aside, retires, or passes away, however she exits the business. But that's an element of, so for every mistake that people tend to make, there's also some background to, and here's how you avoid it by having that plan in place. And we go through each one of those in the book. I go through each one of those and just talk a little bit about how the business owner can negate that so that it's not a mistake. And of course, all the way through, I always invite people to choose their own adventure. They can engage with me or not all the way through. So it can be a DIY, map it out for yourself after you read it, or there's places you can text me, you can message me, you can email me, you can call me, you can schedule an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
You can do all those things to decide how you want to engage, if at all. There's also templates throughout the book. So, for example, building out a strategy. I believe in simplicity. I think simple is an important part of business. We don't have to be complicated. Simple's not easy. Actually, it's harder to be.
KISS.
That's right. That is absolutely right. That actually feeds all the way through those skills, right? Communicate in a simple, straightforward, clear way. But we go through each one of those. I go through each one of those mistakes and talk through why it's important to a business, and then the elements of creating or answering or negating each one of the mistakes.
And so
So
I'm just imagining that you create a plan. People read the book, they get something out of it. They want more. They contact you, and then you help them to actually develop a plan to maybe kind of improve in those areas.
that's exactly what we do. So when we get to meet, we create the coaching plan. What are we trying to get to? Which one of those elements or which several of those elements are missing or lacking in the business? And then what's our coaching plan to get you there? So it's never as nebulous as sometimes I think coaching sounds to a business owner like therapy, which it's not. We're just going to chat for twice a month or whatever the frequency is. Then we're just going to have this conversation and just kind of shoot the breeze. It's far more structured than that, and it starts with what are we tackling? What are the mistakes, if any, that you're making? How do we negate those? What are the leadership skills you'd like to hone in on, and what impact would that have on the business?
Mm-hmm.
For example, getting great at delegation will solve a lot of that time issue, right? Making sure that we have that we are honed in on a really great hiring plan helps with motivation and development of people. Far better to keep your high performing people than it is to be in a constant state of trying to find people.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, right after time comes people. And even when there's a ton of applicants to choose from, what I see with business owners is hiring really is an afterthought. And what we want to turn it into in our work together is a really specific, intentional plan to find people that are going to fit in your organization. It's going to sound obvious when I say it, but it happens all the time. And as somebody who used to hire this way, I appreciate it. I think we have the tendency we're trying to hire a skill, but we don't hire core values. So we get somebody that is capable of doing the thing, but they don't seem to fit in, or they rub people the wrong way, or like there's just something not quite a fit. And that's usually a core values issue. And I don't mean they're not good people. I mean, they just don't fit in our organization.
Right, that the values of the organization, the mission of the organization, they're not in alignment with the other person.
Right, right. Which, by the way, is part of the strategy, Eddie, of a lot of business owners have never written down all the stuff that's up here in their head about why did they start the business? Why is their mousetrap better? Why is their environment better one to work in? What were they trying to create when they launched the thing in the first place? Articulating that is key to creating a really good hiring strategy. If I can't articulate why I do what I do and why I'm passionate about it, it's hard to draw the right people into my ecosystem that are going to help me do the same thing.
When I was younger, I've always been an entrepreneur. There's very few times in the last 40 years that I worked for anybody. And instead, I worked for a lot of people, each one of my clients, but I didn't really have a job. But when I was younger, what I wanted to talk about was just that when I was younger and I ran the business, I had a lot of issues. Number one, for some reason, I felt I had to prove myself all the time. So I got involved in a lot of things because I felt like I had to prove that I could do it. Like it was like a test. Okay. I had to get over that eventually. And the other thing, because when you don't, what happens is you get burnt out, right? If you're somebody who has to be involved in things and keeps pushing yourself and has to make everything happen and feels like it all has to filter everything through you, you get burnt out. That's what happens. And the other thing though is I didn't trust people. I didn't have the capacity to just trust that if I tell you I want this done in a certain way or please take care of this thing, like I couldn't just tell you and leave it alone. Like, I didn't trust you, so I had to bother you about it. So those were two things that really were hurting my business back then that I had to get over. And I actually was lucky that I was able to reinvent the whole business in so many different ways to just make it better for me and for what my vision was, for what I wanted for both my life and for my clients. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I felt that really I had to get over, personal things, in order for me to be a better business person, to run a business better, to create a business that makes money without me, that I don't have to be there for things to happen.
Yeah. And for entrepreneurs, there isn't a separation between work is work and home is home, because it is when we start the business, it's a piece of us in a way that is very, very different than a clinical corporate environment. So, and I think one of the challenges for entrepreneur leaders is to give some space for people that they're going to have some really good employees that don't think like an owner because they're not owners. They're not, and they can still be outstanding employees. To your point about, there's always personal things that we're bringing to work and work things that we bring into the personal. All coaches have some sort of personality assessment, one of those types of things. I do, we all do. I use two. I call it's nature and nurture. What is your native born genius? I use a mechanism called talent dynamics. There's others that are probably more well-known, like Myers-Briggs and DISC and such. I use talent dynamics. I love the language of leadership that's inherent in it. And I love the approach that everyone has a natural genius. There are things that we just gravitate to that we're awesome at. And once we understand that, we know that we can bring people that are awesome at things that we're not good at, to your point, and then let them do the things we don't want to do that they seem to just go to.
Yes.
The other half of that is really, it's a experience in self-awareness, is positive intelligence. I'm a PQ, as we call it, positive intelligence coach inside my own practice. And what we do is a saboteur assessment. Take a quick assessment, and these are your self-saboteurs. They were probably coping reward mechanisms that we developed as little people. And then we carried them into adulthood, and they tend to sabotage us rather than support us. So there's lots of reflective work that happens in in the leadership aspect of
Yeah.
coaching, right? Great
Yeah.
leaders are self-aware.
We need some introspection, right? We got to look at ourselves and
Yeah.
see what we can do differently and improve on for sure. Yeah.
Right. That's the great non-mystery is as leaders, if we think we're going to change other people but are unwilling to change ourselves, we're the only ones that we can actually impact. And when we demonstrate that, that's why and how other people also change. We always have to be, when we're running our companies, we all have to demonstrate the ethics or values, the behaviors that we want other people to copy. The best thing we can do is role model what we're looking for, right? We want people to have a great work ethic, then we have a great work ethic. And that doesn't mean throw extra back to time. The answer isn't always, I'll just work long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're so far down the path
Yeah.
of these great researchers proving to us that working longer hours makes us less effective, not
Mm-hmm.
right. So we all want to
Yeah.
show our employees, hey, you know what? Don't miss the kid's soccer match. You're going to regret it. You're going to wish you'd been
Mm-hmm.
there. So go. And on occasion, when we have a key client and there's an issue and we need to work a little later or do a little more, we also do that ebb and flow. And that most business owners would love that, but most business owners are challenged to demonstrate the part where they go home on time.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I can name several clients, which basically means all of them at one point or another are just working, burning the midnight oil. And when we really dig in, that's not the best use of their time because they're probably exhausted.
Well, I have mixed feelings about things like that, but I do know that studies show that working 4 days a week is the most productive, right? That working less days, a little longer hours, right, is more productive than working 5 days a week or working 7 days a week. But I agree that a human being is not designed to work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. I
No.
agree with that 100%. That's again headed to burnout. Uh, I think the furthest I've gone was 60 days without a day off.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the furthest I've gone. And then I was like, okay, don't talk to me, leave me alone. I'm going away for a week.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and you know what I would
And
add
that,
to
that
that?
was because I was really hyped up on reaching certain financial goals, and I was just on a tear, you
Mm,
know? And
yeah,
then when you do it and you hit it and you hit this ridiculous number and you're like, you know, for the next 10 years, nobody's ever going to beat that number. Nobody's crazy enough to work 60 days.
yeah,
But no, I agree that we need to take care of ourselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves emotionally, physically, mentally, obviously we can't work at a peak performance, right? We got to treat
exactly.
ourselves like athletes. Sleep is the big thing that actually helps us recover and all that. And we need rest. We can't just be thinking all day about work.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I'd also add there when we talk about the 4-day work week
Hmm.
and a few other things. I heard Simon Sinek on a podcast recently. His his comment was, I don't think we've settled on what full time means anymore.
Mm.
I think the key is flexible. I happen to be a morning person, which is why I always frame burning the midnight oil as a negative because I don't function that way.
Mm.
If you schedule a 5 a.m. meeting, I'm fine with that. I'll be up anyway. A 7 p.m. meeting, I don't think I'll be at my best. I just think it's important people really understand what is their best.
Mm.
Or do people like to power through 10, 12 hours and get stuff done? Or are they more 5 hours, take a few hours break, and whatever else more? So just creating space for people to just get work done when they're best at getting that kind of work done.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
businesses are really different, right? You can't run a medical practice that way. You have to be there when the patients are there and that sort of thing. And I certainly understand that. However, I think there's probably more flexibility than we give ourselves space to think about. And I think proved that. I think COVID proved that we weren't thinking with a lot more creativity until we had to think with a lot more creativity, right?
Yes.
Suddenly everyone will deliver groceries to you and anything else you want. You never have to leave your house, et cetera, et cetera.
And all the businesses said, work at home. Don't worry about it. Stay home. Just work at home. It's okay.
Yeah. 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 And they're kind of all over the map on that one, right? There's great. We don't have to lease these expensive office buildings anymore. And now some of them are caught in traps of, okay, we're coming back to the office. You all have to come back to the office 2 days a week. But they're not all there on the same 2 days. So instead of taking the Zoom call at home where they're comfortable, they have to drive an hour to go into an office to sit in a closed office by themselves all day taking Zoom calls in an office in a building. So they're not getting to the root of the problem. And boys, y'all, if you want to circle back on work I do with business owners, we're always looking for the root, not the symptom, right? Okay, if you're calling everyone back in, what are you trying to solve with that? What's the missing thing that you think that solves? And get to the heart of it. Entrepreneurs have an easier time rather than executive type leaders. Entrepreneurs have an easier time getting to that creativity because that's what got them in business in the first place was creatively approaching something. And the way their industry worked, the way they delivered a product or service, they have a unique take. So they're very open to getting to the heart of the issues because that's how they founded business in the first place. So another reason that it's a lot of fun to coach entrepreneurs because there's both strong-minded for sure. They wouldn't be doing what they're doing. But they're also pretty good at taking clear, straightforward feedback as well. Thinking in ways.
Interesting. So what's some of the turnarounds that you've witnessed? What are some of the success stories that you could tell us?
Yes, success stories.
Tell us some of the, you know what? Don't do that. Tell us some of the bad stories. Let's hear the bad stuff.
I got fired last month by a client. So I probably worked together about a year. And that was like, hey, and I know the exact session where they decided they're firing me because I said, aren't you getting exhausted? We have had this exact conversation several times a month for a year. Literally nothing has changed. You're literally defending your own exhaustion, your people problem. Like nothing is different now than a year ago when we started. And I said, what I would say is I say, here's my question. Do you want to own a business and run it? What do you mean? When you talk to me, all you talk about is like doing the thing. We never talk about running the business. The marketing strategy, the hiring strategy, managing time more effectively, running the actual practice. We talk about working in the practice, but not managing it. And you are never going to get a different outcome if this is what you're going to do. No, you're just never going to see a different outcome. You're always going to feel exhausted. The money's not going to be there. And you're going to be working 70 hours a week like you are right now. And I got an email, hey, I need to be in there watching what my team is doing, micromanaging. It just, okay. And that's it. If you think everything is perfect exactly the way you've got it, don't spend money on a coach or anything else because it's exactly
if you're satisfied, if you're satisfied with the way things are, you're happy, then just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, just take a friend out to coffee that'll tell you you're doing a great job. Because I think that's what we were looking for wasn't a change plan. What they were looking for was validation that they're doing everything.
Maybe he really wanted you to just be the guy that he could bitch to a couple times a week.
Could be. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. I have a friend who is a trained psychotherapist, and sort of the tongue in cheek joke is, hey, when your patient's not making progress, you just double the fee, and suddenly they're cured. It's obviously a joke, but yeah, I mean, maybe that was the role that he was hoping I'd play was complain away. But it's no fun for me either because that's not what I enjoy doing. And I'll tell you why. Because what I know to be true because I've spent a year with this person. He is talented in a way that not everybody is and cannot get out of his own way, right? And like that's the rule of hole, right? When you're in one, stop digging, would not put down the shovel. Not
Mm.
only would not stop digging, would not put down the shovel. And that's hard. As a coach, that's hard to see that level of talent that just doesn't want to make the behavior change. Just a couple of really subtle shifts would change everything for him. Everything. That's the tough one.
Yeah, my thing, I turn away more clients than I take on. I'm very
Mm.
particular about clients I work with. I don't have a desire to work with a lot of people. I'll refer them to somebody else. I won't just say, don't call me no more and hang up the phone. I'll refer them to somebody else to get help. But I tell them I'm not interested in working with them. Everybody can't
Fit.
do that. I understand.
Yeah. Well, and fit is important. I would also counsel guys when I've got my consultant hat on. Um, when I first got into financial services, there was a kind of the guru who wrote books, Nick Murray, who used to tell us, never confuse the client you want for the one you've got. Make sure that we're working with people that for for whom we want to be in that relationship and that we can serve and that is ready to work with us. So you're right. I mean, that's the when I talked about hiring, how core values match is. It's just as important for a client to choose me and me to choose them. It's a two-way street of, do we click? Like, is this going to really work? Do we trust each other? You said
Exactly.
trust earlier, Eddie. Yeah. Do we trust each
When I tell clients, let's have a call and a screen share or whatever, so we could see if this is the right fit for both of us. Because
Yes.
maybe you don't like me, or you don't like the way I approach things, or maybe I don't like you or the way you approach things. But I think of it's I want long-term relationships with people. The best clients I've had are clients that I've had for many, 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 because they were right fit people that we fit together well, and it didn't bother me when they called me at 9 o'clock at night and texted me and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because it was a right fit of things. So that's awesome. Well, all right. So I know I kind of like wanted to hear something negative, because I'm always asking for positive things. And every once in a while I thought, I guess I should talk about some negative experiences. But let's talk about some successes. Tell me a little bit about some of the successes you've had with.
Sure. One of my longer term clients that I met after my first year. So we've just hit our 5-year anniversary working together. So by the end of last year, by the end of their calendar year last year, they had, in our time together, uh, they had tripled, almost quadrupled top line. They're coming close. They've got a triple on the way to quadruple top line, holding staffing level the same.
That's
And
good.
right, that's getting every segment of the leadership behaviors. That's making sure we've got a process articulated, designed, everybody on the same page for money, people, and time. It's making sure that we have a clear plan for not the 6 mistakes, but the 6 components of executing a clear business strategy. And that took their co-founders. It took the co-founders committing. It's easy to say that this is what we achieved in that chunk of time, but man, there were some angry voices here and there. It was really a test of just how willing are you to be out of your comfort zone in order to change. But we met at an event in our city, and basically other people who were years ahead of them in business were saying, hey, if you really want to take your business to a different level, hire a good coach. They will help you. They'll give you the objective perspective. And if you'll do the work, you'll get the result. And they did. So they got the result. It's like, all sports analogies apply to what I do. And they really got some very positive results from committing to make the changes that they want to make. And the best part was they got really clear about their own values. And that's what's been so impactful to their growth is we have the same number of staff, but very different staff.
Can you still hear me?
Barely.
I had something go on here. I don't know what happened. I lost my system. Something is wrong since the hurricane. This is the second time this happened to me.
Yeah. I still show us recording on my side, but I don't see you. I can hear
Yeah,
you
it's
though.
working. It's working, but I'm not in it anymore. So we'll have to edit that out. Let me let me go out and then we can and come back in to wrap up, okay? Let
Okay.
me figure out how to turn it all back on. I apologize for that technical difficulty. I don't know exactly what to say. But we're back. Okay. So Ken, nuts and bolts. Let's maybe dive a little bit deeper. Let me see how to set this up here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about if you had somebody right now who's interested in they have some pain points, in their business going on right now where maybe they do feel overwhelmed, they don't have enough time, they want to spend more time with their family, they're not making the money that they really thought they could make. They have maybe issues with staffing, and so they're interested. They read your ebook and now they're going to contact you. What would you say to that person who is now has some interest in working with you and finding out more to see if you can help them to fix some of those?
Yeah. Where I always go with clients, if they know what their issues are and they want to know what kind of plan we put together, I recommend they just schedule one of my breakthrough strategy sessions. I'll use the profiling tools I mentioned earlier. I'll demonstrate for them. It'll be a real coaching session where we talk about the gaps they have, what they're trying to achieve, what coaching will look like as a framework to get them there. And they're going to know at the end of that 90 minutes, number one, if they want coaching and that will get them where they want to be. And number two, if I'm that person. So they'll be in a position to say, heck yes or heck no by the end of it. And that's the best place to do it is try it before you buy it, if you will. Really, really get in
Mm-hmm.
there, get
Mm-hmm.
invested. It's simply for 90 minutes worth of their effort and sharing that information. They're going to have an answer as to whether or not this is the vehicle that gets them the business they've always hoped to have.
What do you think the general feelings are of these individuals when they're in the mess, when they're in the problem, when they're in the gaps? What do you think they're feeling? Are they feeling like there's no solution, or?
Yeah, I think they read enough people on social media that they figure that's just the grind. It's just the way it is. That's just owning a business. This is just how it feels. It's just part of, right? Hey, start your own business and you too can work 100 hours a week, work as much as you want. They feel like that's just the way it is. And what I would share with them is I worked with enough business owners. That's not the way it has to be. That it's a choice and they don't have to feel frustrated. They don't have to feel overwhelmed. And they certainly don't have to feel like that's the way it is or that no one understands what they're moving through in the moment. I absolutely do understand what they're going through.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. So a lot of people out there are stuck in these kinds of ruts and they just think that's the way it is. And, they need to come across somebody or something that tells them, hey, do you know that there's another way? There might be another way. Like it might just not be just the way you're doing things. That's awesome. So we need to get that word out. We need more people to know that there's a better way. I
Mhm.
believe 100% in coaching. I've spent a lot of money on coaching. I've had many, many coaches. Currently, I
As have
have
I.
three. So,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it's like if for me, my philosophy the last 10 years has always been like, I'm at the top of my game. I want to stay at the top of my game. And so somebody who wants to be at the top of the game and really be good, you're going to have somebody to coach you. How else could you be at the top if you don't have a coach?
That's right.
You gotta shoot 300 baskets a day if you want to be a star player, right? And you need to
That's
make
right.
sure you stay to form and you eat right and you sleep right and you take care of your physical needs properly so that you can perform at the highest level.
Yes.
So
And
you need help.
to your point, Eddie, I mean, any football coach is not telling their players how to play the game. They're observing them and saying, "Hey, did you know that if you moved your arm back 2 inches,
Mm-hmm.
you'd get another 10 yards out of that throw?"
Mm-hmm.
That's it's perspective and observation
Mm-hmm.
and support, right? It's the support that we get. And you're right. Yeah, I too have coaches. I've always had coaches for different things. I see the results in myself and my own business and my own practice, and certainly in my own clients. So yeah, and most coaches, my advice to anyone looking for a coach is shop. Ask us anything you want to ask us. We don't have a problem answering your questions. And if we do, that's probably not your coach. Move to the next one. You got to jive with us or it's not going to work. There's going to be some harder conversations, if you will, some animated conversations. They're not hard at all. They're animated. They're exciting. We're working through stuff. You got to trust that other person, right? In both directions.
So I'm going to drop in the show notes links to your ebook and your website so that people can get in touch with you. I know I've asked you some funny questions and some interesting questions. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't discussed so far, or would you like to expand on anything?
Yeah. Even though I've listed Money People Time and some of the other frameworks that I use for coaching, the one thing that that I would like any listener to understand about coaching, my job, is first to always help you and be focused on you to evoke awareness so that you, as the owner, as the one who actually has a lot of answers in your head, can find them. That's what I'm doing with that evoke awareness piece. And the other component that I would want every single person to know about coaching is, as a coach, when I'm presenting you with observations that I can see, I'm not attached to your answer. In other words, if it doesn't fit, that's fine with me. If it does, that's good too. It really is all about my client and what
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to achieve. That's the focus.
Yes. Yes.
So that should help with any sort of misconception that I've arrived with. The secret sauce to make all of your business issues go away. They're actually in your head. I'm here to help you find them.
Mm, exactly. That's excellent. Well, listen, Ken, I appreciate you. I like to talk to you some more, but maybe we come back and do something a little different in the future and come on again.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, be great.
Excellent.
All right.